I'm Marella Fernandez. Welcome to Market Call on this Monday. Teal Linde is on the show today. He's manager at Linde Equity Fund, and we'll take your questions today on North American mid and large cap stocks. Here's how to reach us. 1-855-326-6266 is the number if you want to dial in. You can also send us an email, marketcall@bnnbloomberg.ca if you'd like to do that. Teal, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
The market seemed to be starting off a little bit quieter on this Monday morning, which is a good thing. OECD also came out with its forecasting reduced growth, of course, for North America and generally in other parts of the world as well. But they're looking at it in a certain way where they're sort of projecting in a certain number of tariffs in certain places. Mm-hmm. Given that all of that's a little bit up in the air, we don't know 25, 10% on what's your outlook for growth?
Well, I mean, that's part of the problem is that there's so many things are up in the air. And so it's pretty unusual. We have in a situation where the stock market, business sentiment, consumer sentiment are all being heavily swayed by one individual south of the border. And it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. So in terms of outlook, I thought, well, maybe considering the amount of sway, maybe we should, maybe there's some merit to sort of learn about how President Trump thinks and operates. And so he's co-authored 10 books. And so there's been research done on those books. And so I thought, well, let's dig in there and see if we can learn anything from that. And so I did.
What did you learn?
I did. It was actually really interesting. And so I actually thought I brought two quotes to share with you that might be of interest in your viewers. And the first one sort of confirms what we all kind of know, is that in his negotiations, he likes to anchor high. And that means basically making the first move with a maximalist demand.
Yeah, big, bold.
Yeah, big, bold. Seek the most value out of the negotiation as possible. And he does that so if he does have to compromise, and he says he rarely does have to, but if he does have to, then he can consider himself having a win. And so in his first book, The Art of the Deal, he talks about this, and he gave an example where he decided he wanted to get a tax rate from the New York City municipal government. And so he says in his book, quote, "I went in and asked for the world for an unprecedented tax abatement on the assumption that even if I got cut back, the break might still be sufficient." Right? So it's really part of his playbook.
Okay. So go ahead.
And then there's a second one that's a bit more interesting, which sort of ties in with all the uncertainty. And you got with all the on and off again tariff stop and go, the constant moving of the goalposts, people wondering what's he thinking, what's he really want, right? And for most of his career, he's loved keeping people guessing. All right.
He loves the chaos, is what it seems.
Well, it appears that way, but he actually wants people to be guessing. And he actually, 14 years ago in another book, he says, quote, "Never let anyone know exactly where you're coming from. Knowledge is power. So keep as much of it to yourself as possible." Mm-hmm. So that explains all the uncertainty today. And so
one of the things we can talk about at the course of the show is how do you deal with that? Meaning if you're on the opposite side and you know how he operates, how can you use that to your advantage? Because that is something both Canada and Mexico right now are trying to figure out.
Well, I think he's pretty serious on the trade sort of revamping the whole international trade, because as a politician or as a president, you have many issues that you sort of address, and a lot of them times it's lip service or just you have to address. But he's been talking about or being critical of international trade for over 40 years,
sure,
since the 1980s. So when he says that, when he says that America is like a chicken being plucked by the whole world, I think he actually feels that way.
Yeah, I'm sure he feels that way. I think for the first time, though, he's not running a business, and there are other factors at play, so that he's going to have to look at. We'll talk about this in a moment. We do have to take a quick break. Teal sticking around to take your questions today on mid and large caps. Here again is how to reach us. We're back in a moment.